been finding more and more books at my house. This one we have at the playroom, Mr Creep the Crook. And there's the jailhouse. Mr Creep the Crook was a bad man. Mrs Creep the Crook was a bad woman. Miss Creep and Master Creep were bad children, and Growler Creep was a bad dog. Look at that. Stealing bread, stealing wool, stealing a teddy from a baby and laughing about it. They are the wrong choices. And there's Growler, stealing sausages. We don't steal, do we? For some time, Mr Creep and his family lived in a secret den. For the rest of the time, they lived in jail. Look at all that money. Oh, there they've been caught and taken to jail. One day, Mr Creep was sitting in his little jailhouse. He was drinking a cup of jailhouse tea and eating a piece of jailhouse cake and planning how to get out. Oh, that tea and cake does look good. Here is Mr Creep's plan. Underneath, it looks like digging a tunnel, doesn't it? Up into the car, stolen car, to the seaside. Seaside holiday plan number 1, foolproof. So he's going to go out the jailhouse, under the jailer, under the wall, up, over to the seaside. Mrs Creep was knitting a jailhouse jumper. When she saw the plan, she said, "That's a nice plan. Can we stop at a wool shop?" "And a sweet shop too," the children said. But Mr Creep shook his head. "No," he said. "No changes to the plan. It's foolproof." A few weeks later, as you can see, the plan was foolproof. Well, nearly. Oh, look, in the tunnel they've hit a pipe and a flood. More pipes. Oh, broken wood, broken wall. Oh, it's a squash and a squeeze. No car, they had to go on the bike, and the seaside was rainy. The next day, Mr Creep was sitting on the sand. He was eating a seaside sandwich and drinking a bottle of seaside beer and planning how to get rich quick. Well, it's tricky to get rich quick, isn't it? We have to take time. Here was Mr Creep's plan. Who to rob? Mr Biff. What to take? Gloves. Rob Mr Cosmo. Take his magic hat. Rob Mrs Wobble the waitress and take her food. Mrs Creep was being buried in the sand by the children. When she saw the plan, she said, "That's a very nice plan, but you forgot the wool shop." Growler's digging his sausages in the sand. A few days later, this is what happened. The Creeps got biffed by Mr Biff. Ooh, ouch! And they had their bottoms burned by Mrs Blug. Fire! Mr Cosmo the Conjurer played a trick on them. They're spotty. Mrs Wobble the waitress dropped a jelly on them. They got stung by bees, kicked by a horse, and chased by the cops again. These bad things are happening to them, I think, because they're making the wrong choices, aren't they? By mistake, they also burgled a burglar, and he robbed them, and besides all that, it snowed. Was that a foolproof plan too, Dad? The children said, and Mr Creep said no. Oh, they're cold in the snow. A few hours later, Mr Creep was sitting in his secret den. He was drinking a glass of secret water and sticking a secret plaster on his nose. There's a secret water and a secret plaster. Also, he was dreaming about his cosy jailhouse and planning how to get back in. Here is Mr Creep's plan. Go away from the seaside in the stolen car, and in the tunnel under the wall. Let me in! Into the jailhouse. Get him back in plan. Now, as you've seen, Mr Creep the Crook was a bad man. Mrs Creep the Crook was a bad woman. Miss Creep and Master Creep were bad children, and Growler Creep was a bad dog. However, most things change as time goes by, so after a year or two, the Creeps were not quite so bad, and after another year, they were nearly good, and after 6 more months, they were good. He's cleaning shoes. She's sewing trousers. washing cars, washing the dishes. They're all good choices, aren't they? Helping people. And at last they were let out of jail. Now they know how to be good. Well done. The next day, Mr Creep was sitting in his bed. He was drinking a cup of homemade coffee and eating a slice of homemade toast and planning his last plan. Being good. Final plan. Mr Creep, get a job as a lollipop man. Mrs Creep, get a job as a sales lady. Oh, selling wool. She loves wool. Master and Miss Creep go to school, top of the class, and Growler, well trained. Oh, bring in the newspaper without eating it up. When Mrs Creep and the children saw the plan, they said, "That's the best plan of all. It's perfect, Dad. It's foolproof." And so it was. Wow, nearly. Oh, I think he's chewed a bit of the paper and he's stealing those sausages again. The end. There's lots of other ones, isn't there? I don't have all of these at my house. We have them in the playroom, but I don't have any at my house. This is my only one.